Alright, so off rip, I'm gonna let you guys know right now, I'm not saying Cait Cerpriestess every single time I want to talk about this servant. I'm gonna call her Summer Sith or Pretender Sith, just because Cait Cerpriestess is like a real big mouthful. But I do think she is a very interesting servant. You know, Summer Suzuka is a very safe, quick farmer. Summer Chloe is doing the whole, like, Miss Crane shuffle thing. I think Vargas is a very good standout unit, and I don't think that Summer Sith is bad, but she is very complex. She does a lot. Now, that's generally pretty good because she's doing a lot of very good things, but there is a lot that this servant is doing. I mean, her passives, for one, are very important. They integrate with her skills, and then her NP is also doing a lot, and that integrates with her skills as well. She's just a very, very solid servant. Realistically, just if you want to know if she's good or not, I think she's solid, but you want to get a couple of copies for this one because her NP1 damage is not very good unless you have damage mod. So do make sure you actually go and pursue a couple of copies. But I imagine with how people are going nuts for both of these banners, I imagine people are actually going to go after like numerous copies of these people, right? You're probably going to hit these banners pretty hard. Now, before we start getting into some of these details, make sure you leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel for that daily FGO content. Also, if you want to see me play FGO live, I do that every weekday, starting at about 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Although, the rest of this week and, you know, next week and the week after that are going to be a little bit dicey because I am going to be on vacation. So, if I miss a day or two here and there, that's probably why I didn't go live. But with that being said, let's start off by talking about her hits. Now, she's got a nice hybrid Buster arts deck, which I do like my Buster servants to have because it makes it a little easier for them to be used. Because having those double arts cards does mean you get a little bit more NP gain. And because she does look like she's going to be more useful in, say, CQ type content or just more boss fight style stuff, because they did actually give her a 30% battery, which is very nice. That does allow her to Buster farm. The only issue that is, again, her NP1 damage isn't quite the best, but I guess you could use her for Buster farming if you wanted to. But yeah, 0.59% NP gain on the arts cards over here with 3 hits a pop. That's going to be nice if you get some crits on those, which shouldn't be that hard to do. Her star gen is pretty decent. And you got to also remember that NP gain is being buffed up a little bit by a passive 4% arts card buff. And then we actually do have to kind of talk about some of these passives over here. It is getting buffed up by this 5 to 4% NP gain, depending on, well, I guess technically all the people that you're bringing. Now, she should just get the 5% because she's already got, you know, the chaotic trait. But as you can kind of see at the bottom over here, she also has this thing where whenever somebody gets hit, they get this Wrath of the Enshrined Deity buff for 1 turn. Just make sure you take note of that. Right now, it's going to give them, you know, 10% crit damage every time they're hit. That's actually kind of nice because it can actually allow you to start racking up some nice crit damage if you take a couple of crits in that turn or something, and then you're able to kind of take advantage of that. She does have a way to bomb stars, and she also does have a way to produce stars every turn, so it can kind of ironically make some of your other servants nice DPSs, or if you're doing a solo and she's getting hit, she'll basically always have at least like 30% crit damage up if she's taking 3 hits a turn, which can also be kind of nice. But let's start off by getting into her first skill over here, which is kind of just nice, generic, good stuff. She's going to give the entire party a 20% attack buff and a 20% defensive buff. That's just nice. The party gets a little bit of survivability because they get a little tanky, and everybody gets a little bit of attack. If you're using like double Koyanskaya, now your Koyanskaya's NP can do a little bit of extra damage. You can maybe meme around with like a DPS Merlin because he's just getting a little bit of extra attack. Just nice stuff. But this is when some interesting stuff starts to get slapped onto her kit. She extends the buff duration of HP regen, NP regen, and star regen by 3 turns. That's really good because I just mentioned Merlin, and not only does Sith do all 3 of these things on her own NP, but so does Merlin. So it just turns Merlin's like, what, 5-turn buff into an 8-turn buff? That is ridiculous, dude. That is super dummy insane. That is so good. And then she also extends all enemies' debuffs of Poison, Curse, and Burn by 3 turns as well. So I don't know, if we get some really good Buster servant that you want to use her with that needs like a poison damage mod or a curse damage mod, or if you just want to use her with, say, someone like Yang to extend that burn to like 6 turns instead of 3 turns, you can also do stuff like that. It's just really interesting. I actually can't wait to see what people are going to use this servant for, because this already, I mean, has just applications for, again, people like Merlin and herself. It's already going to be very good in more like difficult content. But the poison, curse, and burn stuff, that actually might be relevant in like the future if we actually get some servants that you can really just exploit this with. So I don't know, like this does seem really nice. Like you get the generic good stuff, but then you get immediate usage, and then I can't wait to see how this gets broken in the future. Then we move over to her second skill. This is kind of like the Sith special, like you're doing a lot of debuffy things. You can remove one enemy's buffs, which is very nice. So like if they give themselves an invincibility buff, they give themselves a dodge, or they give themselves just a metric butt ton of attack buffs, you can just yeet all those off, which is really nice. You also lower their debuff resistance by 30% for 3 turns, so your own debuffs are now more likely to land on the enemy, which she does give curse and poison on her own NP, as well as a massive attack down that she also gives. So that is really nice that you're more likely to land that. She also lowers their crit damage, so you don't just get randomly obliterated. And then every 2 turns, she's going to remove one of their NP gauges, kind of like the Proto Merlin buff that she's able to do as well, right? So it's really nice because you're also suppressing the enemy's ability to hit you with NPs, which works really well, again, if you're going to use her with, say, Merlin, to kind of buy you extra time to get his illusion skill back up. So if you're going to be in a really long boss fight, you can just smack this on there, and it just gives you extra turn, which I think is really nice. And then she also has that aforementioned 30% battery. So if you do get her to like NP3+, you can actually use her as a buster farming lady. Although again, you do really want to get those higher NP copies, because unless you're fighting like a man attribute person, her damage won't look very good at like NP 1 to 2. But if you can get her a bit higher than that, then she actually can be pretty good because of her third buff over here. She actually gives the entire party NP damage of 20% for 3 turns, which, say it with me now, who loves to do that? That also really likes being partnered with Buster Servants? The boy Oberon, who was also on raid up during Summer 8 as well. So pairs very nicely with that, because more NP damage means more nuking potential with Oberon, which is just absolutely fantastic. She also bombs 15 stars, and then if you do have that Wrath of the Enshrined Deity status, you do get yourself an additional 20% NP damage for 3 turns. So if you just take a random hit, unfortunately probably not going to be as good for farming, because you don't really want to waste a turn taking a hit, and there's no real way to guarantee that she's going to get hit unless you have like, I don't know, like a taunt CE that simultaneously also gives you 50% starting charge or something. But then if you do that, then you also get 20% whenever you get tagged. And it actually buffs anybody that does have this Wrath of the Enshrined Deity. So you can kind of try to plan that out a little bit. Overall, all of her skills are really nice. Again, the only thing that I really have against this Summer Sith is the fact that her natural damage at NP1 is a little bit low. But then again, I also still think Morgan is really good, and it's just you gotta find her damage mod. So I'm not really gonna hold that too much against Sith, especially because she's a 4-star, so it's technically easier to get more copies of her, right? Because they buffed the 4-star raid over on JP. But let's go ahead and talk about her NP, which is ridiculous, because already she's going to recover her own HP by 1,000 every turn for 3 turns. She's going to increase her own NP gauge by 10% for 3 turns, and give herself 10 stars every turn for 3 turns. Keep in mind, that's going to get extended to 6 turns. Then she's also going to hit the enemy party with 2k curse, 2k poison. That's going to be 6 turns as well. And then she's going to absolutely neuter their attack by lowering it by 50%. Think like a baby Nightingale skill, because she does do the attack lowering, she just doesn't do the NP down as well, where like Nightingale lets you face tank NPs. But honestly, like if you throw in like another defensive buff, like if you have her defensive skill plus maybe Mash's first skill, if you're using the original Mash, plus the 50% attack buff, I'm pretty sure you can just face tank an NP. Like that's enough defense plus like just cutting their attack in half, that I'm pretty sure you might be able to face tank things and be absolutely fine. Because again, if you're using her with like double Merlin, God forbid you have both of their buffs for 6 turns, you're just going to regenerate all that HP anyway. And then over on her overcharge, she does give herself 20 to 40% buster over here that does proc first, thank goodness, because Lord knows she does need that damage. Unfortunately, it doesn't stack. I kind of wish it did. But overall, this is one of those really interesting servants. Like again, I don't think she's like bad or anything. Saying this like a servant is interesting, sometimes people can be misled into thinking, oh, this servant like sucks or something. I don't think she sucks. I think she's rather solid. I'm more so just interested to see how this servant is going to get broken in the future, because now if they release, I don't know, any good support that just happens to have like a good NP regeneration, a star regeneration, or an HP regeneration buff, like let's say just some generic support comes out and they're able to like target one of your allies, they give them like 3k HP per turn, 20% NP and then like 15 stars, you could just extend that by 3 turns. So even if it's like a 2-turn buff, it's now a 5-turn buff. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, this is such a good skill. I cannot wait to see what people do and what disgusting team comps are able to build, because right now the best one that I can think of personally is Merlin, because I'm like, okay, Buster support that has all 3 of these, and that's really, really nice. Like having like an 8-turn buff for Merlin, because most of his stuff is 5 turns on his NP, I believe, if I'm remembering that correctly. So yeah, like I would love to see like other things that people are able to come up with. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, because maybe there is someone that has done some like ridiculous team comp and I'm just not aware of it. But yeah, as this is the last Summer Servant, the final verdict is that the 5 stars are very like generic and very, very good. They just do very simple things, but sometimes being simple is really, really strong. Like Castoria, just a good DPS with triple damage mod. Melusine, just a very, very good looper with an 80% battery. The 4 stars, very safe quick looper, very, very interesting arts looper, a very intriguing character in this Summer Sith, and then finally we have Chloe, who's pretty nuts. But with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. You guys have yourselves a nice day, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.